All right, so I'm answering the question today about how to get the lights to stop. And really, first of all, this is on the AccuTuner. So if you're using the TuneLab app, you can also use that. But it's all different when it's up here high in the register or if it's low in this register. But I'm tuning this piano and it's pretty in tune first. So first of all, you want the piano to be pretty much in tune before you start this. I mean, if you're doing a pitch raise, it's different. You're not going to worry about the lights stopping at that point. And I'll get into that in other videos, but we're going to be tuning this piano, and I'm on F, I'm around F, so I'm on around on E2, and I've got my AccuTuner here so you can see the lights stopping. And then I'll just kind of talk through as I tune and show you some techniques to get them to stop, because it's all about your technique in your hand, in your hammer hand. So those lights are dead on, stopped. I'm going to turn off the auto note up here so it doesn't keep changing. So those lights are pretty much dead stopped. Let me move this up here so y'all can see better. So dead stopped, and I'm going to go to the next one. Now, I'm not looking at the lights now, I'm tuning a unison by ear, so I'm going to be going. I can still get the lights to stop with two strings. So here's a trick that I use, and I'll show you this one time here in the front of the video, and then I'll be doing it. As I'm reaching up and touching, this is what I'm doing. And I'm using my fingernail so that I don't get like a lot of finger oils on the strings of a piano. So you're not really supposed to touch the piano string. When I tune this, I get the lights to stop on the E on the left string, so the left string is stopped. And then I remove this and I tune the right string to that left string. So I get it to just where I want it. And then what I do with my lights, and you can't see my lights here, so I'll just show you with my finger. I touch with my fingernail just the string on the right, and I check with my AccuTuner if the light is still stopped on the left, and it is. Then I take my finger and I put it on the left string, and I just listen to the right string. And if it's not totally stopped, I'll just nudge down with my thing a little bit, put a little pressure there, and I check again. Now I'm checking my AccuTuner for both strings. I'm looking at the lights on both strings. And so I'm doing that. In the middle of the piano, when I get in the middle, I will do that same thing, only I will actually take my finger like this. I'll put my finger on there, like on a, and I teach this in another video, but I'll touch both strings, and I'll lift up my right finger, and I'll listen to those two, and then those two. So I listen to the middle, listen to the middle right, listen to the middle left. And that's how I test a really good unison. That's how I'll test a really, really good unison, because I can hear the center string by itself. It's perfect. Then I lift up my right finger, and now I'm listening to two strings, and I listen to see if I can hear difference. And that's how I do that, so I'm listening. So it's about stopping the lights, but it's also about training your ear to hear the perfection of a single string, and then listen to that second string with it, and then go single string, second string, single string, second. See if you can hear a difference. And if you do, you can just start to nudge or barely nudge that note. So let's go up to the F. And you notice it's just rolling a little bit. So I'll just put a little pressure, just a little pressure, and I'll hit the note. I got it to stop right there. Now it went a little back left, so I mean, this is actually acceptable. When I was training one of my main techs, I would always, he was sitting there forever trying to get the note to stop, and so sometimes it'll roll, just a barely roll to the right or a barely roll to the left, and usually I leave it there. But if you wanted to stress out about that, which I would not stress out about that when you're doing in the beginning, I would just let it go. You can take your, barely take your finger, just pull back up. So it's kind of tweaked it back to the back there. So all of this is about hammer. You don't want to be tweaking the pen, and a lot of people will say all this stuff about tweaking the pen and all this stuff, but once you feel that it's set, you understand that it's set, you're usually pulling up. But if it's just rolling barely, like so ever so slightly like to the left, it's barely moving, you can usually just grab and just wiggle a little bit and might pull it back up a little bit. Now if it gets to where it's rolling like this, it's going slow, like rolling pretty slowly back, or specifically back like this. If you were going pushing and you accidentally push too far, oh, and it's going like that, now you probably should pull it all the way back up over, make a little jerk up, and then push it back, nudge it back down. So watch this. So I've just pulled it up just enough that it's almost perfect. It just needs settled down. So I'm trying to show you, I'm just barely pushing on this. And now it's stopped. You're listening to this softly. So you don't want to really make it so you're not going to be able to tune really good if you're like pounding on the piano the whole time. You might hit a few times you might hit it hard, like just to get it to settle in, but then you're mostly tuning it with a softer blow. So now I've tuned that F. I'm going to take out my mute. Now I hear both Fs. And I pull up, so I hear that weird sound. If I look at the right string, it's way high now, so I'm just listening to the right string. Notice the lights, and the left string. So now I need to bring that right string down. So I'm just pushing, listening. I'm not really looking at the meter now. I give it a little blow, little hit blow, so it kind of settles in, and then I can take my right-left test. So by ear, I was able to stop that light dead on. That's my ear. That's the AccuTuner's training me over many years. So sometimes I listen to it and I go, no, it wasn't quite stopped, and I can do that. That's why when you're learning to stop the lights on the AccuTuner and to tune unisons by ear, it's extremely important that you listen to single notes, that you tune them, that you listen to them, you go, oh yeah, this is where I want it, and then you go, yeah, that sounds right to me, but I see that the right string has got a slow roll. So then you push it in, you're like, oh, that even sounds better, because your ear will be, basically your AccuTuner will train your ear over time. Now you saw me do that just then. What I did was I tuned the left string to the AccuTuner, it was dead stopped. Then I tuned the right string by ear. I just tuned it, nudged it down till I thought it was perfect, and I stopped. And then when I checked it on the AccuTuner, the right and left string are dead stopped. See, right string, left string, right string, dead stopped. So this will train your ear. And if you notice, a lot of beginners will pull, when they pull up, they'll pull so far up that now their lights are just screaming, going all over the place. Now you want the least amount of movement in the pen to get it above. So when you have to do that jerk to get the pen up above, you'll learn to just jerk it just enough to where it's just right above. Okay? That does take some time. So go F sharp. And it's already tuned, so this note's already tuned, that's good. So I'll take out my mute, then I listen. I'm like, that sounds okay, but I think I hear a roll, so yeah, it's just barely. So that string is just barely. So I'll just push on it a little bit. Test. Now I got a little far, so. And so I'm just taking my 3 fingers and I'm just kind of hitting down with a good pressure. I'm not pounding or banging on the notes at all. It's probably hard to hear that from there. So now we're going up to G. And it's rolling low. immediately. So here's how I'm going to show you where I'm going to jerk it above just a little bit. I'm going to grab underneath and I'm going to go just that little jerk. Now that was I did two. I could have just done that one. Now I start pushing back down. Now I usually put my hand right here and I just kind of push. Little pressure, little wiggle, and see how it's stopped right there. So it's just a little pressure, just a little wiggle, and then it actually stops. Now I'm listening to the middle string and it's way out of tune, so I can listen to it. See, it's flat, so I've muted off with my finger. I muted off that left, so I'm just listening to the middle. And I already knew it was out of tune, I just could hear it. But I wanted to see, yeah, it's out of tune and it's a little flat. So let's pull that middle up, like this. Now that's how much I pulled it up. Start pushing it down. And I listen softly. I think that's right. Now let me check. It's very close. Left string, I check the left string, check the middle string, and I could push it down a little more. And then I go to the right string. We're on a 3-string note now. So just push until I get it. And then you have that's the right string. So you're testing it and see how it's dead stopped. Now, one of the questions I got was, how do you stop the lights? This accu tuner is very accurate. The lights stop, you know, when it's ready, it stops. This is a nice piano in a studio. If you're on a spinet, the lights might jump around a lot more. So you have to perceive when it's enough, when it has stopped enough, when you feel like this piano, in other words, the lights could be jumping around a bit, like they are now when I'm talking, even though you get close. So if they're rolling like this, and if they're rolling like that, or if they're rolling like this and then jumping, you know, you have that weird kind of thing. Each tuner that you guys have, that you use, could be different. So you want to just get to know your device. But in the beginning, when you're learning, I would not spend a lot of time trying to get the lights to dead stop. I would spend a lot more time trying to get the unisons clean. So you want to get the lights to dead stop. But when you're doing a pitch raise, they're not going to dead stop. When you're doing your first tunings, you're probably going to have a hard time getting them to dead stop. And so you're working towards that goal to get them to dead stop. The AccuTuner 4 is very accurate, and it will dead stop. The 3, the 2, some of the older ones, and other even apps like on your phone, you have to look at it. So when I use TuneLab, I do have TuneLab. Maybe I can show that to you, because the lights are different on TuneLab. So it took me a couple weeks to get used to when I felt that the TuneLab lights had stopped. It's a different light system. It kind of moves back and forth. And so you kind of, one way to test that is you can get the lights to, like on the AccuTuner, they'll stop for a second, but if you push a little more, they'll start rolling backwards. Okay, so that's not good. And then if you pull up, they'll start rolling up. And then there's a moment where you see in the AccuTuner, all 3 lights are lit up. And whether they're here, wherever they are, angle-wise, they're all 3 lit up. And that's where your dead stop is. For today's demonstration, this was good because this one stops really good. Now as you get higher up, I'm going to do one up here in the very high register, because as you get higher up in the register, you have to hit the note a lot more times to get the note to stop. And it gets extremely hard to get a dead stop. So I'm going to show you that up here. Like when you're up here in C, you're kind of pulling, and see how it started going crazy. It just started immediately going wacko because I pulled on it. So then I'm going to push, and I'm going to hit a lot more. And then I can get that to stop. Now, these high strings, if you hit them a lot and you hit them harder, now it's going backwards. So you can come into your hammer and just kind of pull a little bit. And you kind of go back and forth. So you see how extremely sensitive these pens are. So I usually like to have these pens rolling a little bit like this, so that I know that if they fall back flat a little bit, it's going to be okay. If you get them like this, where they're dead on, or they're rolling backwards, you know, they might go flat a little bit. So later. So you're going to hit that note a bunch, and when you get up here, you're going to hit the note a lot. Like, you can see the lights there. C7 is going to be very, you know, it's moving around like a lot. So you can kind of pull up on it. Let's mute this one out. So it's like you're going to hit it, push, push, push. Every time you hit, you push a little bit more. And over time, you're going to knock that. You're going to get it to go to kind of, and I would stop. Well, that was too far. See, I was going to stop before, just a little bit before, just like let it roll like that. Okay. Let your C7 roll a little higher, and so it's like you're hitting until you get it to stop. And it's all just little motions. It's all very little. The smaller the motions, the better. The smaller the motions, the absolute better on this, getting the lights to stop. This is a few things that you're doing. You're training your ear, you're watching your thing, and you're feeling. And this takes time. So in the beginning, if you get this down and you can start doing it without thinking about it, then you can tune really fast and really accurately. And you can see in this video, I'm not slamming my fingers down on these. I'm not slamming down on these. I'm just basically really simply taking my 3 fingers. And sometimes I'll go give it a nice sharp smack. But I'm not pounding. I'm just like if you're a pianist, how hard you would play like on a forte, you know, using the weight of my hand. Just kind of dropping it on there. This matters because if you play too hard, you're going to always be pounding the piano flat. And if you play too soft, then your pens won't, your strings won't really get settled. But I really am not for the idea that you have to pound the heck out of the piano to settle the pins. I think it's more about up here. It's up in the right hand. It's up in your hand here, how you're feeling the pen and how you're hitting it while you're pushing it, and then you're letting it settle in. You're actually, and I'm going to talk about this in other videos. If you have any questions, ask me. I'm not going to go into equalizing the tension, but I will tell you that it's not about, you know, pounding the piano string so hard that you equalize the tension all here. Equalizing the tension in this area right here. You're trying to basically leave this tension equalized. So it's not really about pounding it so hard that this goes here. It's that you can take the tension and you can kind of take the tension off this front string. It's really about front string tension. If we want to get into that, we'll get into that later. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to go ahead and finish tuning this piano. It's very bright and very hard to tune this piano. And whenever I get finished tuning it, I go, it just needs more work, probably voicing, but they want it like bright like this, so that's fine. It can be bright. All right, let me know if you have any questions about this, but this is just about getting your ear to stop the notes. And as you get confident, you'll start tuning really solid.